I'm Emily Porter, and I'm also here with my colleague Brad Watson. We are from the Emory Libraries and Museums, and we're going to talk a little bit about our current work to redevelop our institutional repository, building a new application with Hyrax 5, Valkyrie, and Fedora 6. So we presented a bit on what our goals and activities were last year. So last year we were starting to do some prototyping in preparation to actually do this in production. Um, I think I'm copying a slide layout that Michael Klein rolled out one year, and I thought it was really perfect. I don't want to rehash our prior presentation, but just call out a few high points. One is that we're working right now with content that's still managed in Fedora 3 and not through a Samvera application. Um, and so for the focus of what we're doing right now is trying to get, that legacy content, that legacy architecture managed through a Hyrax 5 and Valkyrie application, also again backed by Fedora 6. And what we did last year was the Fedora community actually has a direct Fedora 3 to Fedora 6 migration utility. And we did do some testing on that last year. Our goal in the last effort was to try to export directly into Fedora 6 and then experiment with using Valkyrie to try to transform the data and try to get it into a state where it was readable by a Hyrax application. Um, we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute, but what we found was really that the amount of work it took, and particularly where we were last year as a community, it was just too much work to try to replicate all the different data model entities that a Hyrax application requires. So kind of starting fresh this year. And then we also had a fun prototype activity because, again, that was just a research and development effort. And so I'm going to hand it over to Brad now, if he's ready.
Hello, I am Brad Watson, the software developer here with the Emory Libraries and Museums. This is kind of a outline of our goals set out before we started the project, which the project's already ongoing. We went ahead and had the goal of starting out with a Serenia-based Valkyrized Hyrax 5 and the 6.5 instance. Um, we are asking the open question, are we the only ones? That is both a joke as well as a true question. Is anybody else doing anything with the about Hyrax 5 and 6.5 Fedora? We would love to talk to you because we would love to go ahead and kind of work together and figure things out. Otherwise, we are going to re-ingest from the previous application 34,000 works and 300,000 files, all through bulk racks. We are also going to bring over certain preservation objects and customizations that are currently live in Curate, which is our digital repository here live at Emory. And we are going to build a whole bevy of customizations so that we can both incorporate back into Curate's upgrade, which is our next huge project coming down the road. All while also contributing to Hyrax Fedora 6. And we'll go into more detail in the future slides. Back to you, Emily.
All right. Thanks, Brad. So one thing I want to talk about really quickly is just one of the reasons why we're interested in moving to Fedora 6 is first just to benefit from a lot of changes and improvements over the last few years. But we're also very interested in adopting OCFL, Oxford Common File Layout, as a kind of backend persistence standard for our material that is being preserved. And again, one of the things, this is kind of a joke, kind of not. But what's really fascinating about this is because with this type of persistence, you can actually go see your entire repository written to disk. And that's one of the benefits of OCFL. I also have to say, once you look at it, you cannot unsee it. So this causes me sleepless nights at times. One of the things that we're discussing within the Fedora community, as well as in the Hyrax Fedora 6 working group, is that there's this kind of two different flavors of OCFL that can be persisted. One is what's called atomic resources, and another which is called archival groups. So it's really a matter of whether or not the objects are very carefully structured and packaged all as one entity, or if it's just many, many different OCFL objects depending on what is being persisted. Another thing that we're looking at is, again, it's just kind of a question, maybe not an immediate problem, but in our case, we persist our binary files. Well, all of our OCFL is persisting to AWS S3 storage. And one thing that we're noticing is that kind of original context about the binary data, such as a file name and MIME type, aren't actually persisted. Therefore, we're still dependent on either Fedora or um, Hyrax, or really having some type of system to be able to pull that data back out and interpret the actual contents of the files. Let's see, next thing, excuse me. Another thing that we're keeping an eye on, again, going through this process, we're going to learn a lot about performance. We basically started with a sandbox environment. Now we're building out a more robust test or QA environment. And just having done a couple of deposits through Hyrax, again, the example here is 3 works with 8 file sets attached, with 8 binary files and 1 admin set. We already have 98 distinct OCFL objects. So we're really going to have to keep an eye on this and see how this scales up, given the amount of data that we still have yet to migrate and re-ingest. So Brad, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
So as I mentioned before, we started out with Serenia, basically copied over the Serenia and started modifying it on our repo. As far as one of our main goals, we are looking at about the way we code this to go ahead and then be able to deal with the migration from our Hyrax 3.4 Fedora 4 repo. So we are definitely taking notes and learning in advance how that's going to go. We've been blessed to have Emory's front-end team, which is primarily Drupal-based, involved with the project from the start. So they really have been working simultaneously with our back-end team here, which has made things go real fast. And that's truly a blessing. As far as the support has gone, it's been great. Questions have been answered really quickly. Daniel Pierce has been a true treasure trove of information, as well as other variants as well. We've had a couple of PRs that we've been able to submit because of what we've seen with Fedora 6 and Hyrax 5. So the Valkyrie Fedora side, we have a couple of things that we have submitted. But otherwise, the main challenges have been so far us kind of expanding out the characterization fits metadata side of things. We have progressed pretty fast in this, but we do have certain things that we expect from our organization, from the characterization data that should be a part of our objects, and persisting that with predicates has been the main challenge. Expanding out metadata has been both easy and hard. The YAML structure that is now integrated with Valkyrie is pretty good, pretty great, but we still have customizations that have to take place outside of that. And what our current major challenge is based upon the comments from Emily about the scalability of things. We are trying to figure out what will have to happen to get Valkyrie to pair tree. Basically the Hyrax and as well as Valkyrie and Fedora to pair tree so that we can go ahead and alleviate any possible performance issues that we will see when we start bringing in a massive amount of objects. I'll go ahead and pass over.
Yeah. So again, apologies, we're slightly over time, but just wanted to say thank you. You can reach both of us on Samvera Slack. I've got some links to prior presentations we've done about this, and also plug in the Hyrax Fedora 6 working group if you're interested in this. There's a link to our repo, and then also the FC repo channel in Samvera Slack is where a lot of our working group activities are happening. So thank you all very much.